各位觀眾，大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄。卑詩省嘅各市鎮喺10月15號舉行咗市選啦。擁有超過66萬人口嘅溫哥華市選出咗 Ken Sim 沈觀健為新一任嘅市長。沈觀健喺4年之前嘅市選之中首次參選，但以不足1000票落敗俾由國會議員轉戰市選嘅 Kennedy Stewart 甘迺迪。今屆佢帶領新成立嘅 ABC Vancouver 優化城市黨捲土重來，結果擊敗爭取連任嘅甘迺迪而成功贏出，成為咗溫哥華市首位華裔市長。而佢所帶領嘅優化城市黨亦都係市議會贏得多數嘅席位。沈觀健喺當選之後接受咗本台嘅專訪，暢談自己嘅背景、涉足政治嘅經歷，以及佢喺市政上嘅各項計劃同方向，如何兌現對溫氏市民嘅承諾。咁我哋而家就一齊去認識一下呢一名新任嘅溫哥華市市長啦。沈觀健先生你好啊，多謝你接受我哋呢一次嘅專訪啊。
Great, thanks for having me today.
首先恭喜你啦，當選溫哥華市長啦，成為溫哥華市第一位嘅華裔市長。咁其實咧，好多人都想了解多啲關於你嘅背景㗎，想知道點解一位商人啊會想當上市長一職咧
How far back do you want to go? I think what's relevant for your viewers is, I was born in Canada, but my parents were actually from Hong Kong. Actually, my dad was from Shantou, and met my mom in Hong Kong. They got married, and then they came to Canada in 1967. I was born here in 1970. Typical immigrant family story. Our family didn't have very much money, but they came here for a better life. And it all worked out. And now, fast forward 50 plus years, I'm here. I have 4 boys. I'm an entrepreneur, a chartered accountant. And the reason I ran for mayor is my 4 boys don't see a future for themselves in Vancouver.
你幾位嘅小朋友而家幾多歲咧
？13 through 21. Yeah, it changes every year, so I always have to think about that.
你有華裔背景，咁你識唔識講中文㗎
？I 識聽少少，我唔識講 and then my Mandarin's terrible. But it's interesting. My dad, he spoke Mandarin, Cantonese, Thai, Daiju, and English. And when he came to Canada, he really wanted me to speak Cantonese Mandarin. And I resisted because I was a child in the 1970s. And if you spoke Chinese or, Punjabi or Hindi or whatever, you got bullied, you got ostracized. And so we didn't want to, we all wanted to speak English. And then one day you wake up and you're 18 years old and you realize, wow, what a missed opportunity. And, I love our heritage, our background, our culture. And it's really unfortunate that my French is way better than my Cantonese, unfortunately.
喺4年前嘅市選啊，你以少於1000票嘅票數落敗咗啊！咁喺過去呢4年裏面，你做咗啲乜嘢啊？你會點樣咧形容呢過去4年嘅時間啊
？Yeah, so I would say we gave the current mayor some time to see what he could do, and we actually offered help. We just wanted a mayor who would do a great job for the city of Vancouver. And it became pretty clear in about January of 2019 that wasn't necessarily going to be the case. And so, we basically started campaigning, and we, built a campaign team, a new party, attracted candidates, and did all the things that you need to do to win not only the mayor's race, but a majority on council, park, and school board as well, because that's what you really need to affect change. And so, long story short, I've spent the last almost 4 years, for this moment.
咁除咗參與競選工作啊，你嘅背景咧大部分都係從商方面，未有政治方面嘅經驗。咁你會點樣說服其他人啊？你能夠升任市長嘅職位啊？
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, we're in the situation because the current politicians, with all their experience, they struggle with the challenges that we have. Whereas I'm a problem solver, we think big, we think bold, and we look for solutions. And so we actually do have a lot of political experience now. In the last 4 years, we've actually built the largest municipal political party in the province. At the City of Vancouver, or in our party, we have 3 sitting councillors from the last term. that have 4 years worth of experience. On our transition team, we've brought on Diane Watts, who is a former mayor of Surrey and former member of parliament. We also have James Ridge, who was the deputy city manager in the city of Vancouver that's helping us with transition. We have Tung Chan, who's a former councillor. And so my skill set is identifying challenges, problems, opportunities, but then surrounding myself with the best people possible to help us achieve our goals, and have a pretty good track record of doing that so far.
黃光遠先生啦，係已故知名嘅華裔領袖啦、企業家、慈善家。以我所知啊，佢對你嚟講咧係一名好重要嘅人物。你可唔可以講下俾大家聽你哋嘅關係，同埋佢對你有啲咩影響啊？
Yeah, Milt Wong was just an incredible individual. He was a nation builder, and I learned a lot from him. The first time I met Milt, I call him Milty, but Milton, was when I was graduating from university, from UBC, and I couldn't find a job. And so he was very generous, and he sat down with me and gave me a bunch of advice, and our relationship carried on from that point in time, where we would help each other out with advice. And then he became the chairman of my company. And so, I spent a lot of time learning from him. And he not only was he an incredibly brilliant person, but he was a kind person, very empathetic. And, he lived in a time where, Chinese individuals didn't have very many rights, and, they're bullied, and there's a lot of racism. And that really stuck with him. And so that sort of drove him to do what he did in the Chinese community and in First Nations community. And, I learned a lot from him as well.
咁正如你所講啦，黃光遠先生係你嘅啟蒙者啦。咁其實佢一直都致力於推動呢一個嘅文化交流㗎。咁例如係溫哥華龍舟節，亦都係佢引進㗎啦。咁喺呢一方面咧，你有冇喺佢身上得到啲乜嘢啟發？你會點樣令到溫哥華市變得更加文化和諧啊？
Yeah, so a big thing that we need to do, and this even goes to, let's say anti-Asian hate crimes. You can try to bring in police, you can pass all these bylaws, but they're not going to be effective because it doesn't actually change the root cause of why people feel the way they do. And when you look at racism, it's always based on ignorance. And so what we're going to do, in addition to dealing with challenges that we have, we want to celebrate all the contributions of Chinese Canadians and Indo or South Asians and all our different ethnic communities, all the leaders that have done amazing things in our community. So we changed the perspective of one of ignorance and hate to one of acceptance and actually, gratitude.
你啱啱都提到啦，咁過去幾年啊，針對族裔嘅歧視事件大幅增加㗎，有時甚至乎演變成為襲擊事件添。咁你會點樣應對呢啲問題啊？
Yeah, in the short term, what we're going to do, now that I'm mayor and we have a majority on council, we're going to ask the Vancouver Police Department to start hiring 100 additional police officers and 100 mental health nurses. And that will go a long way in addressing the challenges that we have on the street in an empathetic and effective way. The program, there's a program called CAR 87, which partners up a police officer with the nurse, and it's been incredibly successful. The fact that we haven't put more resources to it is actually, it's shocking. And so that's what we're going to do, and we feel very good about the impact that we will have in that area. The second thing we're going to do, and this is sort of tailored more to Chinatown, we're going to put a City of Vancouver office in Chinatown. Because I truly believe if you want to solve a problem, you can't do it from an ivory tower at 12th and Cambie, sitting in a council chamber. You literally have to be on the streets, speaking with residents, business owners, community leaders, the people that are suffering on the street, and figure out what's going on and how we can improve the situation. And that's ongoing. That just doesn't happen one time. We have to be there a lot.
咁你啱啱都提到華埠嘅問題啦，其實近幾年咧，華埠的確面對唔少挑戰嘅，有塗鴉嘅問題啦，或者商鋪空置嘅問題啦，都困擾住華埠。咁喺華埠嘅問題上，你有啲咩計劃啊？
Yeah, and so the great thing we've done is we've actually embraced the community. So we've had a lot of conversations with people in the community because they have a lot of great ideas. And so when it comes to graffiti, we're bringing back, the graffiti section of the Vancouver Police Department. And for whatever reason, we got rid of that. We're going to bring it back, so it will tackle the graffiti, because there's only a few prolific, graffiti taggers, and if you identify them and you understand what's going on, you go a long way in addressing that. The second thing we're going to do is there are a lot of reasons or a lot of things we can do to improve business. For example, we can look at parking and change how parking is done. Instead of parallel parking in on an angle. When it comes to how much we charge for parking, what we could do is look at, maybe giving the first hour of parking free. That way you have more people going in and out of Chinatown, and they can, buy stuff from the local merchants in Chinatown. When it comes to lighting, we can give a rebate to any business there that has a sign, like let's say a neon sign or a lit sign with Chinese characters on it in addition to English, something that celebrates the neighborhood. And if they do that, the city could look at giving them a rebate for even the full cost of the sign. And we like that because we have to light Chinatown up anyways. The businesses like it because, they get to have a sign of their own, and it's actually, less expensive than us doing it on our own, and it actually promotes public safety. By the way, all these ideas came from the community. It didn't come from us. And so we already have the answers in Chinatown. What we really needed was City Hall that was actually actively listening and wants to embrace the revitalization of Chinatown.
咁喺了解過沈觀健嘅個人背景，以及佢會點樣處理，例如係種族歧視事件、華埠等等嘅一啲華人社區關心嘅問題之後，喺下一節翻嚟，我哋會繼續沈觀健嘅專訪，聽聽佢喺其他各項市政嘅議題上有啲乜嘢計劃。翻嚟節目時間。沈觀健喺競選期間政綱之中其中一個重點係要增加100名嘅警員以及100名嘅精神健康護士。咁究竟佢係打算點樣實踐呢一個承諾？有冇具體嘅實際執行計劃呢？目前佢首要處理嘅工作係乜嘢？而對於溫氏長久面對嘅房屋問題，沈觀健又有啲乜嘢嘅解決計劃呢？嚟緊嘅幾個星期甚至幾個月啦，你會優先處理乜嘢工作啊？
Yeah, so we started working on a transition plan the day after the election. So there were no days off. And so the next 3 weeks are spent on working on that transition plan so we can hit the ground running on November 7th when we actually walk into that chamber. And the transition plan, what we're doing is we're fleshing out the 4-year operation plan for our platform that we announced. And so we're seeing how we can roll that through. With the city manager. So that's the first thing. The second thing we're doing is we're already reaching out to all of our local neighbors, like the mayors throughout the region, plus all the provincial politicians and the Prime Minister's office. And so we've already started that process, and that helps us build collaborative relationships with all the politicians that we need on the funding side. So when we talk about housing, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about addictions, these are all issues that the provincial and federal governments fund, things that the city of Vancouver can't do on its own, or we will never solve the problem.
你競選嘅時候，其中一個主要承諾就係話要增加聘用100名嘅警員同埋100名嘅精神健康護士。咁先講講警員方面先啦，你會點樣落實呢一個目標啊？
Yeah, so we've already spoken with the Vancouver Police Department before the election, and they felt very confident that they would be able to hire those officers. Now, that's an operational decision and responsibility of the Vancouver Police Department. As mayor, we let the police department know that's part of our vision. We want 100 officers, and we will support the police department in funding it. They have to execute on it. And so we feel confident that they will be able to do it. The situation obviously is dynamic. You never know what's going to happen for sure. But I can tell you, since we came up with that plan, there was an election in Surrey. And the incoming mayor actually wants to get rid of their, independent police department. And so our ability, we still support our local partners. We want Surrey to be successful. But if they if they close down that shop, all of a sudden you have, hundreds of police officers that are all of a sudden available immediately. We could be in an even better position than we thought before the election. So we're really excited about that opportunity.
有冇一個聘請人數嘅時間表呢？
We're still working out those details with the VPD and through our transition plan. So more to come on that. And a lot of these things we can't do until I'm actually in office. But what I can tell you is we would like to accelerate it as quickly as possible. Will it take time? Possibly, probably. But if we had an opportunity to hire 100 people on day one, we would do it.
講到要增加100名護士啦，呢一個目標會唔會更難達到啊？首先啦，聘用醫護人員咧，其實係省府管轄嘅工作嚟㗎。再者就係我哋大家都知道，目前護士人手短缺，你去邊度揾咁多人去兌現呢一個人數目標呢？
So on the first thing, when people say it's under the provincial jurisdiction, that's not necessarily the case. And so we already have precedents in the city of Vancouver where the VPD work closely with nurses. So on the CAR 87 program, where they have an officer and a nurse, what the Vancouver Police Department does is they have a memorandum of understanding with Coastal Health. And so the nurses come over that way. In our jail system, the Vancouver Police Department, they actually put an RFP out, a request for a proposal, and they have, Coastal Health and private providers of nurses bid on that contract. And so that's another way of doing it. Or thirdly, we can just hire them directly. So there are ways of doing it. So that's not a concern. When it comes to the actual 100 nurses, will it be hard? Yeah, I'm sure it will be. But we do have a lot of opportunities. There have been a lot of nurses that have left our public healthcare system, at least in the hospitals, because of working conditions, because of COVID. It's been a really tough go, but they're still nurses. But if someone doesn't capture them, give them an opportunity, they will actually leave nursing. And so we are giving those nurses an opportunity, and we've pulled some nurses, and they love the opportunity. They would jump at it. There are also a lot of programs that are happening provincially and federally when it comes to nursing qualifications and restrictions and bringing in other nurses from different jurisdictions. So, when we look at it from that perspective, there are a lot of different opportunities to attract nurses. But it will be, it's not going to be easy. That's for sure. But once again, we feel very hopeful that we can make a pretty big impact on the hiring of nurses.
咁就算兌現得到呢一個目標都需要大筆嘅預算㗎。咁錢從何來呢？
So the cost of or the size of the investment is approximately $20 million a year. And to put that in context, the City of Vancouver budget with operating or capital is over $2 billion. So this represents less than 1% of the overall operating and capital budgets of the City of Vancouver. I've never seen a government ever that couldn't find 1% of operational efficiencies without affecting service levels whatsoever. And so we're making a choice. Look, we're going to maintain all our current service levels, but we're going to go through the financial statements with a fine-tooth comb. And, were there decisions being made on, let's say, spending $1 million on furniture that we don't necessarily need tomorrow? I would rather focus on the mental health nurses and the police officers because we have a safety crisis on our streets today. And so we're just going to make better choices.
你會唔會喺市內增加新稅項或者係加稅啊？
No. So what we need to do is we need to see what we have in the budget. We need to see what collective agreements we have that, we basically have no control over. And then we get a formulated picture. But what I can tell you is there's no intention to add an additional tax to pay for these police officers and nurses. The other thing we need to look at is, although the size of the investment is, $20 million, what is the cost of crime? What is the cost of a serious assault? What is the cost of anti-Asian hate crime? These are, some of them are you can't calculate, but others you can. And we truly believe that for every dollar we invest in this program, we will save a multiple of that amount in, less crime on the streets, our businesses not being closed down or suffering, people not leaving the community. It's an investment.
溫哥華嘅房屋價格同埋租金經常都係全國最高㗎。咁喺競選嘅時候就提過你會加快房屋建築許可證嘅審批時間。咁但係單咁樣做就係咪可以解決到市內嘅房屋問題呢？
Well, it's the biggest thing we can do on housing. So, you could rezone the entire city for like 100-story, condo towers. But if it takes 6, and by the way, I'm not saying we do that, please. Okay, so like, I hope your viewers don't think that we're doing that. Very far from it. The point is, you can rezone as much as you want, but if it still takes 6 to 12 years to get a permit to build a building, we're not going to have any buildings built or housing built anytime soon. And what we have to do is speed up the permitting process. The goal is to, if you want to do a renovation, you can get a permit within 3 days. If you want to build a single-family home or a laneway house, 3 weeks. If you want to build, a low-rise, professionally designed low-rise building within 3 months, and a condo tower within 1 year. And if we just do that, all of a sudden you have more housing being built faster to house people. When you have more supply, the price goes down, right? Or as opposed, if you have less supply, the price will always go up, and that's what we're seeing. The other part of this is when you have more people housed faster, they pay property taxes. So it adds to our tax pool, which helps fund these other investments. And you have a situation where if you have more people living in the city, you can actually increase your tax base and at the same time have the ability to, reduce individual taxes because you just have more people living in the same area. And so we get excited about these solutions that we're proposing.
你有冇信心同省政府同埋聯邦政府建立起良好嘅關係呢？咁當如果有政策方向唔同嘅時候，你會點樣平衡啊？
Yeah, well, I'm all about collaboration, and so we're going to have an amazing relationship with both the provincial and federal governments, whoever's in office. We've already reached out to our provincial elected officials and the Prime Minister's office, and we've had some great conversations already, more to come, and everyone is really excited. And the great thing is we all share the same concerns and we all want to solve it. And so working together, I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to, have a lot of common ground and, make a big impact on these problems that we're dealing with.
有冇邊啲咧喺現時已經定下咗嘅市政計劃啊？你係打算喺交接工作一完成咗之後就要立即取消咗佢㗎？
Yeah, the only one we're going to cancel for sure is the road tax. That ends as soon as we're in office.
咁最後啦，對於溫哥華嘅市民，一啲支持你或者係唔支持你嘅人啊，你會有啲乜嘢説話想同佢哋講啊？
Well, first of all, I'm going to be the mayor for all Vancouverites. If someone voted for me, thank you very much. And if someone didn't, obviously we didn't do enough to earn your vote. And so I'm going to be the mayor for all Vancouverites, and our councillors are going to be the councillors for all Vancouverites as well. I would like to leave all your viewers with hope. We have a 94-point plan. We told the whole city what we stand for and what we're trying to achieve. So now we're accountable to something. And we're going to try our hardest to make that happen. Will it be hard? Absolutely. Will there be false starts? Absolutely. Will we make mistakes? Absolutely. But we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep plugging away. And I hope after 4 years, after our first term, the city is safer. We have more housing options. People have a lot more pride in our city, and they're excited about our city.
再次多謝你接受我哋今次嘅專訪啊！
Great, thank you very much.
溫哥華市議會會喺11月7號舉行就職典禮，咁亦即係話新任市長同埋市議員就會正式展開佢哋任期嘅工作。咁究竟沈觀健能否帶領溫市新一屆嘅市議會喺未來嘅4年為溫市帶嚟一番新景象呢？大家就要拭目以待啦。咁好啦，今集嘅節目時間又差唔多啦。如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mag26@fairchildtv.com。如果觀眾想上網重溫翻今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得翻㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。